Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mercenary Musician Podcast. This is part 2 of the gear episode. We're going to go over all the gear you need and organizational tips, stuff like that. If you have not yet listened to part 1, go back and listen to that one as well. That's kind of got the more meat of your gear set up in there. That's it. Sit tight. Listen up.
Hey, we're live.
We're back.
All right, guys. Part 2 of the gear episode. You're here live. Mercenary Musician Podcast.
Yeah, baby. Part 2 of the gear episode. All right, so I guess I didn't really say this in the last episode, but I'm really not much of a gearhead. I know a lot of guys who are, and that is, it's an important thing to know about yourself. Know your interests and your strengths, and try to find people who can be kind of part of your informal team who complement your strengths. So like I kind of mentioned, I've got a buddy who is a sound engineer who's great, who I work with doing my original stuff pretty often, and he knows all about gear. So I just kind of ask him, and I just kind of tell him what I need. Like, I know what I need. I know I need stuff that will never break and that sounds great and is pretty easy to use. And he says, cool, this is the thing. And I say, cool, thanks. You know, and he has not steered me wrong yet. So, as far as gear goes, if you don't love gear, if you don't like crack out on gear, then find somebody who does and kind of be friends with them. Mm-hmm. Yes. So we were talking about cables.
Yeah, so we knocked that out. So we're gonna move on to
I do want to say I don't think we really finished cables.
Okay.
So we're going to start in cables again. I just want to say a couple more things about cables.
Okay.
So you got instrument cables, you got mic cables, speaker cables, and power cables. Now there is a difference between speaker cables and instrument and mic cables. It has, I just mentioned I'm not a gearhead, right? So I'm not going to tell you the technical difference. It has something to do with like one is shielded and one is not. I'm not even totally sure what that means, but I know there is a difference.
Okay.
I am fairly certain that instrument cables can work as speaker cables, but speaker cables cannot work as instrument. They can work, but they sound bad. They give like a lot of extra noise, and they can damage your equipment too. So make sure that you're using instrument cables for your instruments, and not as important that you're using speaker cables for your speakers, but a nice speaker cable will do you good too. I've got 2 speaker cables in my bag that are XLR, which is like the mic cable, right? But it's a speaker XLR cable. And then I've got mic cables, which are, like a shielded, like an instrument cable, but with XLR ends. And then I've got instrument cables, which are 1/4 inch. And then as far as power cables, we did talk about power cables, but there's another thing that I like to have a backup of, which is a power supply for my looping pedal. You don't need a looping pedal. I think you should have one. I think there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't have a looping pedal. They are really great for this type of work. And a power supply is like one of those things that will go bad. So get yourself a backup one of those. Also, backup to the backup, you can have batteries. My pedal takes AA batteries. So if things go really wrong, I can just put AA batteries in it and limp through a show that way. My guitar also, while we're on the topic of batteries, my guitar pickup takes a 9-volt battery, and that will die on you, and it will be embarrassing if you don't know what's happening. Mm-hmm. That has happened to me before, where I'm like, I don't know, my guitar just broke. This is,
What about your cell phone if you're going to be using it throughout the course of your show?
Yep, you should. I keep a phone charger in my bag, and I try to get my phone. Well, when I'm on doubles, sometimes it doesn't survive. I try to keep my phone charged as much as I can so that I'm not like charging it while I got it hooked up to the mic stand.
What about investing in one of those power blocks?
I don't know. I don't have one of those, but I wouldn't say no. Okay. I wouldn't say it's a bad idea. I just try to keep it charged. And usually what I will do if it's like dying when I'm setting up at my second gig is I will get my power set up immediately, put my phone on the charger immediately, and then start setting up so that it has like 20 minutes while I'm setting up to charge a little bit. Okay, so yes, we're through kind of the boring power cables and stuff. The meat and potatoes.
Now we're on to the veggies.
Are we on the veggies yet? Let me see. I just want to make sure there's nothing. Yeah, cool. Okay, so yes, we got all the like you must have stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
I do also want to make a note. If you're, I mentioned earlier, if you're certain you're doing this, if you know that this is what you want to do, spend $2,000 on this gear. Just put a budget together. Talk to a friend who knows about gear. Call Sweetwater, by the way. Sweetwater, I think it's Sweetwater Sound. Sweetwater, it's this company out of Indiana.
Yeah, you can just. Well, you mean the website? It's just Sweetwater.
Yeah, they're a music supplier, and they're just great. I love them.
They team you up with one-on-one.
Yeah, they get a sales rep
rep.
who's like your guy,
Yeah.
and you're just like friends with him.
He's still. I mean, it's been 5 years since I put an order in with them, and they still reach out annually just
Yeah.
to see if there's anything.
Hey,
they
it's
need.
it's Bob, your fucking
Yeah.
Sweetwater guy.
Yeah.
Just happy birthday.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
exactly. Yeah.
So they're great. I really like them a lot, and they've got everything. I mean, think of a piece of gear, and they've got everything. They got brand new and used.
And keep this in the back of your mind. If you need to get something immediately and you can't get it from Sweetwater that day, a lot of places will compare the prices from Sweetwater. So you can take that to Guitar Center and they'll match the price. So price matching is huge if you need it day of. Use Sweetwater.
Yeah, a lot of times too with like a day of thing. Like for instance, if my guitar were to break on me in between gigs, I would book it to a Guitar Center. I would buy a guitar, and they've got a really lenient return policy. Last I checked, at least. Don't commit to this yet. Make sure you know before you buy something from them. But you can buy something and return it within 30 days. You
can do that.
You can get a guitar, play it for the gig,
Yep.
return it, and get your shit fixed before your next gig.
And you have up to 30 days to put a warranty on it as well if you can't do it the same day that you buy it.
Huh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Warranties are great. I recommend warranties for anything expensive, really.
Anything you're gigging on, anything you're going to beat the hell out of, yeah.
Yeah. It's one thing if you're going to leave something in your studio and just like play it in a nice controlled environment where it's air conditioned all the time and you're not unplugging and replugging and pulling it out of your car. But if you're touring, if you're playing gigs,
If you're being a mercenary musician,
that's right. If you're being a mercenary musician, you need stuff that is under warranty.
yeah.
And not even just under warranty, but you need stuff that's just not going to break in the first place. That's your main priority. But if it does break, you want to be able to not have to drop another $700 on something, you know?
Yeah.
So that's another great thing about the QSC guys is if you break it, I don't think I even have a warranty. I think it just comes with a warranty. I think it might come just with a 2-year warranty. But it's just great customer service like that. So a company that knows they make a good product and knows that if it breaks, that they can afford to replace it because it hardly ever breaks.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right. So what else do we have?
Okay. Kind of extra stuff. I want to go in order of like most important, like
Cool. Good idea.
like the stuff I would do first. Gear bag. You need a bag for your cables. Excuse me, for your cables and what?
Our gear bag. The Mercenary
Oh, that's right.
musician gear bag.
Chad likes to do this like hand signaling thing, and I'm just like, what?
Well, we're live, right? So- I think he can read my mind.
I can't do it. I would try.
We're working on it.
Okay, yeah. So gear bag. We're planning on. It's a good time to mention that we're planning on putting together a kit for you guys. That's just like, give us $1,000 and we'll give you everything you need, or 2,000 if you want a higher end type of thing.
Yeah.
Everything you need, down to the cart, which I highly recommend you get also. But
All in one.
yep. Back to the gear bag. The gear bag I'm currently using, I was using a JanSport backpack for a while, which can be okay. The thing I don't like about backpacks is they're like top loading, so you have to dig for everything, which I don't like. What I'm using now is a tool bag. It's a Hercules tool bag, and it is, designed to be on a work site with hammers and shit in it and thrown all over the place. So that's kind of what I went for. I was like, I need something that's like made out of Kevlar. It's an exaggeration, but like something that's just
But yeah.
going to last forever.
Yeah.
And that's what I got. I got a gear bag that is basically a tool bag. The thing I like about the tool bag is it's like elongated, right? Opens from the top, and it's got like a long rectangular shape to it. So I don't have to dig as much. Stuff is right on top, which I appreciate.
Nice.
Yes, get a gear bag. It's just silly to carry cables and stuff loose in your hands. Get a bag. Tip jar. You should have a tip jar. You're leaving money on the table. I've had people. It surprises me sometimes hearing people who don't have tip jars or don't know how central they are to this whole game. I guess it shouldn't surprise me, but it does. I've had people ask me, "It's like, you think we should put out a tip jar?" And I was like, "Yes, yes." Even if someone puts $10 in, that's the quickest $10 you've ever made. All you had to do is put a jar down on the floor, and you made $10.
Yeah.
I mean, it's yes, you should put a tip jar down. I want to do a whole episode about the psychology of the tip jar. I think it's interesting. I've been like playing with mine. I'm always tinkering with mine. You know, different sizes, different materials, different looks, different. You know, I put lights on mine. I tape a $20 bill to the rim of it, so it looks like a bait dollar hanging out, so it's clear that money goes in here. I don't have tips written on my current tip jar, but I think I might do that because it just makes it a little more obvious. You want to remove barriers. You know, I put my business cards by my tip jar, so I have an excuse to mention it over and over again. Hey, if you like this, grab a business card. I do private events. My phone number's on here. You can call me any time of day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Talk about anything you want.
I think it's
Business
safe to
cards
say
are here by the
that
tip jar.
that could fall into gear as well. It's
Business
marketing
cards?
gear, but it's marketing. It's gear in a sense.
Yeah, I
it
think-
needs to be with you.
Yeah, you should have business cards, which I recommend you have a professional photo of yourself on, because part of what you're selling is what you look like.
Do you think it makes sense to have on the backside maybe like a QR code or something that can take you immediately to like a live performance by you or something?
That's
of
not
that
a bad
nature?
idea at all. I hadn't thought of that, but that's a very good idea.
You know,
I don't mine doesn't have that, but I think the next one will. Kind of cool thing about business cards is they're really cheap. It's like $10 for like 1,000 or something.
Vistaprint.
Yeah, that's where I go, Vistaprint. And you can kind of change them, you know, as you go. You go through them pretty quick if you're playing a lot of gigs. If you're handing them out, I probably go through a box of them every 6 months or so, or maybe a year, and then you can you can try something else.
Well, and it's cool because Vistaprint saves your designs too, and there's a lot of cool shit that they offer that you wouldn't even think of to help brand yourself. Aside from just the business card, if you decide to do that.
Yeah, luckily my my girlfriend is great at that type of thing. She's a professional photographer and good at that kind of graphic design. So she's not a graphic design person, but she's good enough at it to help me out. So that has helped me out a bunch. Okay, yeah. So tip jar. At first, no need to get too fancy, but I will say this: don't do glass. Don't do something that could drop and break. You want plastic. Don't do something really small. You don't want it to look like it's full. You want it to look like you don't want it to look like it's empty. You want it to look like people have their own tips in there, like they wouldn't be the first one to tip you. But you also don't want it to look like, oh, he's got plenty in there, right? So I used to use a cheese balls jug. It's kind of ugly and it looks kind of trashy. So if you're playing in a nice place,
You could dress it up.
yeah, I mean, my tip jar now looks nice. It's like a kind of translucent, colorful thing. It's like a bucket. You know, just have it, you know, and play with it. See what works better, see what doesn't seem to be working, and just play with it. That's kind of the same thing with all of this stuff. Is a lot of this is just start doing it, and you'll start seeing what doesn't work, and you'll knock the edges off. I have a whole just like book full of jokes about my tip jar, and it's just a great little trick. You don't want to be like tips. You don't want to be desperate. You don't want to be entitled sounding. You want to be light about it, but you know, joking about the tip jar is great.
So what's next after tips?
We have picks on this list, which I think should be kind of self-explanatory, but it is definitely something that I have forgotten before. This is one of those things where I just put picks everywhere. I just put picks in every pocket of my gig bag, put it in my wallet. I put picks in my guitar case. If I put them in my car, I just like leave them everywhere. That's what I recommend you do. Rather than a single point of failure, just have picks scattered throughout your whole life. That's what my life is. There are just guitar picks everywhere. A tuner. I've got an onboard tuner on my guitar. On the Fishman pickup has a tuner on there, which is great as long as you have a 9-volt battery. But if you don't have a 9-volt battery, your sound is not coming through anyway, so you're double fucked. So keep 9-volt batteries on you if you have need of those. Make sure you know what you need. Remember how I open my car and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and I'm done, right? One of those things is my gig bag, right? And right. So it's guitar, mixer, speaker, gig bag, my bag with my stands in it, and my car, my lights, and my tip jar, 7. And I count those, and I go. But the gig bag is kind of the thing where even that system could fail you is if you forget to pack your whole gig bag. Okay, yeah, I've got my gig bag. I counted it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, got it. But if something's missing from your gig bag, it's just as bad as if you'd forgotten the whole thing. Sometimes, depending on the gear, the piece of equipment. So it's kind of important to make sure that your gig bag is packed. Double check things. Dummy check is what we call it in the industry here. You pack up the stage. After you think you're done, act like you're not done and look again and just scan everything and make sure you brought everything off the stage. When you're packing your car up, especially for like the first year that you're doing this, when you're packing your car up, if you have any inkling that you might have left something out of your gig bag, pull your gig bag out, make sure everything's there, and then put it back in your car. Just like make sure your shit's there. Very few things look less professional than showing up at a gig and not being able to play because you're missing a piece of gear.
Yeah.
It does not look good. Although people will understand, especially if it's your 100th gig at a place. I mean, if you got a good reputation with a place,
by then you'll know how to handle that situation too.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So you've got the onboard tuner, and then if for any reason that fails, you've got a phone tuner.
Phone tuners are great. I use the Pano tuner, Pano. It's free, and it's great. It's a chromatic tuner also, which I like, meaning that if you tune your guitar down a half step, for instance, it'll say E flat right on there instead of E, which is nice.
Some of them also include metronomes. Does yours?
I have a separate metronome app,
Okay.
Metro Timer, which is not really within the purview of this episode, but you should be practicing with a metronome, you animals.
Yeah.
Just do it. People think they don't need to, and they're wrong. They're just wrong.
I was one of them for a very long time.
Yeah, you need a metronome.
Yeah.
It will make you a better player, period.
Well, especially if you want to play with people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, having rhythm is like, you can play wrong notes, but if you got the right rhythm, you're okay. For the most part. If you're in the wrong rhythm, you're just not making music anymore. Even if you're playing the right notes, if you're not in the same rhythm,
What the fuck are you doing?
it's not music. You're just making noise.
Yeah.
Man, I had this guy who, when he was by himself playing guitar, he sounded really cool. It was like this really cool blues thing, but the dude couldn't count to 4. And like every once in a while, I tried to play with him one time, and it'd be like 3 measures of 4 and then a measure of 5 out of nowhere. Like it was just like he was making it up as like he didn't have 4 in his head. I was like, man, I don't know. I mean, I practice a lot with a metronome, so I can count 4.
Back to it.
Rub it
Since
off.
we were just talking about the phone tuner, you're going to have something to hold your phone tuner, because if you've been listening to the podcast, you know that one of Peter's favorite apps is the chord chart app.
Yes.
All right.
Was it Ultimate Guitar?
Ultimate Guitar, which is also a fantastic place to go and learn songs when you're at home as well.
It's really
if you know how to read tablature, which you should if you're a mercenary musician.
highly recommend it. I actually don't generally use the tabs very much. I just use the chord charts, but you can use tabs too. Especially doing something on the fly, it's hard to do something on the fly with a tab. Chord charts are easier. You say, "Oh, see," and there's the word. Boop. I can do it on site if I've heard the song before.
But you're not going to hold the phone in your hand, are you?
That's right. It's impossible to do that.
So what are you going to do?
You get a little cell phone mount, which I just got a new one today, and these are kind of something that they just break. They're just I've yet to find one that lasts more than 6 months or a year.
Look forward to the mercenary musician cell phone mount.
That's right. That's right. We're gonna
brand the shit out of everything.
We're gonna brand the shit out of everything and sell it to you, baby. And you're gonna love it because it's gonna be good equipment.
Exactly. Mercenary grade.
That's right. Mercenary. I love that.
Man,
nice. This stuff writes itself.
Do this shit all day.
Yeah. So get a cell phone mount. Get the It should have like 3 little arms on it. They're on Amazon. You can spend $6 on a really cheap one and just plan on buy 3 at a time and just plan on replacing them every 2 months. Or you can spend $30 on a nicer one and plan on replacing it every 6 months or a year. That's what I do. I like just a nicer thing. So, I got the Zenvo Squid grip, Xenvo. I believe it's a Chinese company, and I loved it. I loved past tense because my second one is in the process of breaking now. I think they're really more designed to just be like stuck on something and kind of left there, rather than like pulled on and pulled off and pulled on and pulled off 12 times a week like I do. So, I mean, it's understandable they're going to wear. But so I had the first one, and it broke after 6 months or so. And I just sent them a message. I said, "Hey guys, and I encourage you to just try this if your gear breaks. Send a message to the manufacturer and say, "Hey guys, my thing broke. Just wondering if you would replace this." And they did. So I got my second one, and then that lasts about 6 months or 8 months, and it's breaking now. So I bought a new one. So this is just one of those pieces of gear that you're going to be replacing. It's just gonna be broken. Yeah. Very, very useful stuff. This being able to take requests like that and even just fake your way through stuff you don't really know that well even is just it's a level up. It really will increase your tips. So yes, get a speaker or a phone mount for your mic stand.
Now, this one you just recently started using, correct?
No brainer. I should have done this immediately. Travel cart, little hand cart. It folds up. They're like $70. It has made my life so much easier. It's just absolutely. I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. I feel so dumb. I've had this for about 2 years maybe. It's just so great. I used to be able to do it all in one trip. You hold the speaker. I got my guitar backpack, got my gig bag over my shoulder. I've got a mixer in my other hand, and I've got mic stands in a handle also with the mixer hand. And it's just like, why was I doing that? It's so silly, and trying to like squeeze into a room with all that stuff on you can be tough, awkward. You're bumping into patrons, which you don't want to be doing, and it's heavy, and sometimes like straps will break if you put that kind of wear on them over and over again. So I just have the hand cart, and it makes it a lot easier. I don't have to worry about, okay, I got to park close, put my hazards on, unload my gear, then park far away. You can just park far away and put everything in a cart and roll it.
Yeah, and you can stroll in as opposed to
it's so much better.
Beeline.
Just do it. Just get one of those. Get the Mercenary Musician travel cart, which has not been created
coming.
yet.
Mercenary approved.
Yeah, this is the type of thing that should last forever. They're really simple instruments. It's just a hand cart that folds up.
Yeah. Now I know we were doing this in order of importance, but I think this next item is probably one of the most important things, specifically because it pertains to your health.
Yeah.
And longevity of your ears.
Yeah, and it's related not just to your physical health, but your psychological health. I found hearing protection is the thing. I won't keep you in suspense much longer.
Yes.
Earplugs. You can get a nice pair for like $30.
And you should get this case that Peter has. It's very misleading to the eyes.
Oh yeah, the little screw case on my keys. Yeah, it looks like it looks like there are drugs in it. I actually had a cop one time pull me over.
Yeah, I remember this.
And he like searched. He was like, "What's in this?" Like unscrewed it. Like he knew. He was so sure he was about to find drugs on me, and you could see just the look of disappointment on his face when he opened it up and saw it was earplugs. So yeah, I got a couple of nice sets of earplugs. These are things that you will just fucking lose. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You just lose them. So be prepared to have backups for this. Get some nice ones. You don't really need to go nuts and get like $100-something pair of earplugs. I like, $30-$40. Eargasm is a good brand, and it's got a funny name. Yeah. So hearing protection is great. There's a thing about that. So longevity is important here. You want to be able to do this sustainably and not hurt yourself. Your ears are important if you're a musician, or even if you're not. I mean, your sense of hearing is important. And I spent far too long not using hearing protection properly, and I definitely have some hearing loss from it. It's just, even if you're not playing that loudly, which I'm not usually, sustained, there are studies out about this, sustained noise, even at like a moderate volume for like hours, can mess up your hearing. And I'll occasionally have like a tinnitus thing happen where I goes, like a little, every time you hear that, that is the sound of your ear cells dying. That's like the sound of, that's the tone you're never going to hear again, because that tone is dying. It's kind of the idea. So, and it's even beyond just the direct impact of having your hearing not be as good. There's a psychological impact of like, man, I'm hurting myself every time I play these gigs. I'm making my senses duller slowly over time as I do this job. So don't let that happen to you. Wear hearing protection. I know it can be tough at first if you're not used to it to play, to kind of hear yourself the way you want to hear yourself when you have hearing protection in. I know it's like wearing a condom kind of. You're just like, I don't want to do this. but I know I have to. I feel better when I do. You know, it's you should do it. You know, unlike condoms, not doing it once is not going to change your whole life, whereas not wearing a condom once can. But it should just be a good habit. It should be a habit. You put your earplugs in. You should know how to use them. They should make a complete seal with your ear and get used to what it sounds like with those earplugs in. What I like to do is I'll start without earplugs in. I'll do my first couple songs, make sure the sound sounds right, and then I'll put my earplugs in so that I'm not... Because if you start with your earplugs in, you might think, oh, this sounds weird, and then mix to yourself with earplugs in, and it won't
come out right.
Right. You want to make sure that the naked ear is hearing what you want it to hear, because that's what your audience is listening to. And then you put your earplugs in, and then you play. So that, I highly recommend hearing protection. Really can't recommend it enough. It'll in the long run, very, very important.
It'll keep you gigging.
It'll keep you gigging. It'll keep you from having to go, huh? What? Huh? I have friends who just refuse to use hearing protection, and they're fucking 30 years old, and they're doing that already. It's not cool. Not cool at all.
What, because of what? The vanity? Like, why wouldn't you want to...
It's because they don't like the way they sound. It's because they, it's because they play their guitar and they want to hear their fucking guitar shred. And I get that. I mean, it's like wearing a condom. It's like, I want to hear the fucking pure, sweet sound of this amp just crushing ass. And I can't when I have my hearing. You know, and a lot of times it kind of will fuck up your sense of... This is what you can shop around for earplugs. So don't buy like 10 pairs of the same earplug right off the bat. Shop around, get a couple different ones and see which ones you like, because they'll cut out different things. They'll cut out different frequencies and dampen different frequencies. And sometimes you want a little different profile. In the same way that a mic has kind of a sound profile, earplug kind of has a sound profile as well. So play with those. Do not neglect this part of the job. Just don't neglect this part of the job. You will hurt yourself in the long run. And, you know, I still have faith that technology will save us all from a lot of this. And it honestly, too, this will make you look like a pro, just to people who know what they're looking for. It's like another really little detail where if there's another musician in the crowd and they see that you're wearing hearing protection, you get a little bit of extra credence from them. If I see somebody wearing hearing protection, I'm like, oh, this looks like maybe a real pro. You know, whereas somebody who isn't looks less professional to me. And your average audience member is not going to notice, but it shows if you know what you're looking for. All right, we kind of touched backup gear. You should have backups for every small, cheap thing, really. Mm-hmm. Mics, cables, and things that are likely to break. Picks, batteries. That's about it, I think, for backup stuff. I mean, it would be nice to have a backup guitar at least at home. I don't think you have to take it with you everywhere. Because again, something breaking like that, it's going to, in the same way that a mic stand will kind of give you warning, a guitar will usually give you warning if something's going wrong with it.
Strings.
Oh, did we not mention strings?
No.
Yeah, you got to have strings if you're a guitarist. Yeah, have strings. Have, especially if you're a
string winder.
String winders are great. I recommend having those. Are cheap as fuck too.
Mm-hmm. We'll have some Mercenary ones.
Yeah, we will. A little string winder, and they usually have little clippies that you can cut the excess string off.
You can also twist it. I don't know if you know that, but once you have tightened the string, mm-hmm. you can twist the tail end of the string, mm-hmm. and it'll just snap right off at the base.
Cool.
Yep,
that's cool. So yes, bring strings. Buy a pack. You know, you're going to go through them. Especially if you're a steel string guitarist. Those strings will break.
Yes.
Nylon strings are much less likely to break. I haven't had a string break on my nylon string guitar at all, ever. But I just replace them when they start to get dead.
If you're gigging on a regular basis and you're frequently breaking strings, I suggest you join the Guitar Center String Club.
Yes.
It's fairly inexpensive, and you get several packs a month.
Yeah, that's a good deal. You just got to make sure you do it. Because I think you pay, right?
You pay up front.
Yeah. If you're breaking strings really frequently, you should have your guitar set up by a pro, by a luthier, or checked out. Something might be wrong with your guitar. They shouldn't break that frequently.
That starts at like $65 to $75.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And this is all stuff that you can keep track of this if you're going to start running a business like I do. Stuff you can write off. Mm-hmm. These are all write-offs.
Yep.
Did we talk about lights? Lights are one of those things that is kind of extra. I've got. They're called. Let me just see here. Can't remember the brand name of the lights, but they're like LED lights. They were like $100 each. I've got two of them with stands, and I've got this app here called Happy Lighting. They're really great, and I can adjust the lights from my phone app if I want. I can, make little jokes out of it and say, "Hey, look, I got this new piece of gear here. Look at my lights. I can make them blue if I want. You guys want them blue? Yeah, we want blue. Boop, there's blue. I'll make them purple. You guys want them purple? Yeah." It's just like another thing to talk about. Again, it's above and beyond. It's not totally necessary, but it makes you look like you know what you're doing. It makes you look like you care about what you're doing and you're taking an extra step that you're not necessarily getting paid for to look more professional.
Yeah. And again, to reiterate, if you are a mercenary musician, you should be doing this.
Yes. So, one more little thing here. As far as acquiring gear, I didn't do this all at once. Like, I will say, if you know you're going to do this, sit down, make a list, get the core stuff first: speaker, cables, mixer, instrument. You should have an instrument already. Mic stand. Like, get the core stuff. But like some of the stuff you can acquire slowly over time, right? You can pick up a string winder. You can pick up a pedal. We barely touched on pedals, but that's kind of an extra piece, actually. I use a looping pedal. I use the RC20XL Boss. Boss makes great stuff. It's like one of those workhorse things. The casing, they're like tanks. Again, could throw this thing off a roof and it would still keep ticking. I love my looping pedal. I think it's just a great practice tool. Even I think you should just have one. That's about $270, I think, for the RC20XL. You can get a smaller, kind of more simple version. But yeah, $100, and it's good. Yeah, they last. And it's just a great thing to have. It adds a little color. I know a lot of people just sit there and chunk chords and sing. That's what they do for 4 hours. That would get old to me as a performer. I mean and that's a lot of voice work. So I like to put solos. Also, I shred a guitar, so it's another little aspect of like, look at this, I'm special. I'm not like a regular solo acoustic douche. I'm a good solo acoustic douche. So yeah, you loop your chords and you solo over the top of it. I recommend having one. I mean, just play with it at home, and it's a great practice tool if nothing else. You can loop chords and solo, improvise over the top of it. You don't even have to bring it out to your gigs at first, but I recommend you have one. It's really cool. It's another thing also that you can tell your audience about. I tell my audience about this once a set even, and I say, I got a little story that goes with it. I say, hey, just in case anybody's curious, and especially if I'm prompted, like if somebody like sees that there are two guitar parts going, and they're like, what the fuck is going on? Especially guitarists will notice that type of thing. Amateurs as well as pros. Pros will know what you're doing, but an amateur will be like, whoa, how's he doing that? Mm-hmm. Is that pre-recorded tracks? People will assume you use pre-recorded tracks, which I don't, which I kind of take pride in the fact that I don't. When you're hearing two guitar parts at once, none of that's pre-recorded. That's all live. And people, if they're interested, will look up and go, oh, what? Oh, okay. I've got this looping pedal down here on the ground. I click this button with my foot, play something, click it again, hands up, and just plays over and over again, no matter how annoying it is.
Magic.
Yeah, and it's just another interesting little story, a little bit of interaction, a little bit of here's what I do, everybody. Nice to meet you. That makes you more of a person, and it also it just improves your show. Even if you didn't have a little story about it, it just makes the show better to be able to solo.
All right. So in closing, let's go over some organizational tactics.
Organizational tactics, yes. So, I mean, we talked about the dummy check. It's very important to not leave shit behind at both your house and at gigs. Really more important to not leave it at gigs because it could be lost forever that way. But if you leave it at your house, at least it'll be at your house. So make sure you dummy check both your house and your stage on your way out and on your way back from gigs. As far as your gear bag, you should basically leave that packed all the time. Something I like to do is I practice at home also, and I like to have my home practice set up independent of my gear bag. I don't want to have to touch my gear bag, pull cables out of it, plug them in at home, unplug them, put it back in my gear bag, and go to work with it. I want to leave my gear bag in my car, totally packed, not touching it. That will help a lot. That will prevent you from leaving stuff. So yeah, leave your gear bag packed. If you can afford it, get your home practice set up with its own power cables and with its own instrument cables and its own speakers. If you can't, I mean, it's fine to bring your speaker inside, play with your speaker at home, but just don't forget it, right? So when you get back in your car to go to a gig, do your count, right? Make sure you know all your stuff. Number it like I do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 is the tip jar in front, and I'm good to go. All right, cool. And that should do you pretty good. What other organizational tips can I give you regarding gear? Another little piece of gear. I'm sorry, this is the last straggler thought. Have a tarp in your car.
Oh, yes.
That's pretty useful. Yep. Every once in a while. I try to set up in a way that's not going to force me to have to use a tarp, so that if it rains, I'm already under something. But if you
never know.
You never know. It's just nice to have.
Plan for the unexpected.
Yeah, I got a tarp in my car. A little organizational idea. Think about your car as you work out of your car a lot, right? You're going to be in your car, in and out of your car a bunch. I've got a Subaru Outback hatchback. It's just perfect for what I do. Plenty of room. I love it. I couldn't recommend a car more.
Remember picking it up? It was just like it was yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. We bought that together.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think? Organizational tactics? You have any other ideas here?
The biggest thing is the checklist. To do it before you leave the house, to do it as you're setting up, and to do it before you leave. Do it twice before you leave.
Yeah. In the beginning, it pays to be a little extra diligent. Spend an extra 20 minutes. Like, I can get set up and broken down in 9 minutes each. Mm-hmm. I've been doing this for 6 years.
You got it down to a science.
I can get set up in 9 minutes. You don't need to worry about that type of speed yet, right? Take your time. Show up an hour early to these gigs. Take a half hour before you leave and make sure you got everything. Take your time in the beginning, all right? Because sometimes you might be forced to rush if you sleep in or something, but try not to.
On that subject, in the beginning, before, you might not really know exactly what cables are what. It's okay to take a piece of colored tape and put it around the cable to better identify what it's for.
Ooh, you actually yes, that's a good idea. Also, I love these things. This is I can't believe we didn't mention this earlier. For cables, organizational tactic for cables, get the cable ties. Mm-hmm. They're cheap as anything. They're like nothing.
And they're colored.
And they're colored, yeah. And they're Velcro. You put it on your cable, and you can wrap your cable, and then you put the Velcro around it so it doesn't get all tangled up. It's really, really great. It's just like...
It's a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer. Get those cable ties. Velcro cable ties. That's another good little organizational idea. I just want to make sure we're giving them everything we can here. Am I forgetting anything?
I think we've covered it.
All right.
All right, guys.
Good job.
Is part 1 and part 2 of the gear episode.
The 2-part gear episode, finally.
You heard it
Got
here
it
first.
in the bag.
The Mercenary Musician Podcast. I'm Chad.
And I'm Peter. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you.
It's been a pleasure. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Hey, folks. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Check out more of our content at Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcast, Podbean. We're also on Instagram at Mercenary Musician, Facebook, YouTube, and we encourage you to email both Peter and I at peter@mercenarymethods.com and chad@mercenarymethods.com. Get at us.